Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome everybody to Nightlight. I am delighted that you're here to share with me tonight because we have a fascinating author and a fascinating topic. So I really am excited to get into the evening. I have Gary Wayne with me, and he is one of my favorite authors. I have learned so much from him, more so than he will ever imagine. But our topic tonight is going to be very, very different in that we're not going into the books of the Bible exactly, but we're going to be focusing on the changes that are happening to humanity at this point in time, and how AI is influencing us on consciousness level and a spiritual level. And I think it's really important because it's something that has crept up on us, and now it's presenting itself, and it's having a influence in our lives above and beyond what we had anticipated. So I think it's time we talked about it. We sort of are warned as to the implications and cautioned as to how hopefully we can protect ourselves from being taken over totally. So welcome to the show, Gary. I'm glad you're here again.
Well, thank you for inviting me back, and so happy to be with you again, and really excited to talk about this subject and hopefully go in some directions where most people who are talking about AI haven't gone, or not maybe in the way that we might do it. And not to dismiss all of the sort of nerdy technical things about AI, but it's real world now, and it's making an imprint. And I think it's time for more honest discussions before we won't be able to have those honest discussions.
Well, or if we have them, it will be with AI.
Yeah. And it'll be the filter.
Yeah, it's sort of reminiscent of some of those science fiction movies that we thought were funny, where the computers were taking over our lives.
Yeah.
And then here we are. I shared with you before the show, I had to reschedule a dental appointment, and AI got it wrong. And when I tried to explain what had happened, I was told AI wasn't wrong. And I said, yes, it was. And I lost the argument, but
yeah.
But it's sort of like AI took control of my life there, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, and no recourse. That's
None.
The other thing, because it's AI. It's been raised up to super intelligence. I don't think it's actually been classified as a sentient being yet, but just that sort of experience that you've gone through would suggest that it is, but a superior in intelligence. And why does something where you write programming for have to be named artificial intelligence? What's that all about? Why can't it just do the searches that we would like it to do? Why does it have to be an end goal of something intelligent? What the heck why is that even part of the discussion?
Well, I think, they got to the point where it could do our schedules for us and all sorts of, and that's a convenience. And then,
Yes.
except when it makes a mistake. And it's capable of making mistakes.
Yeah, it can. And again, it's how well was the programming done? And more importantly is what is inside the programming that are the invisible daemon, Greek for demon, algorithms is the jargon for it. What is that programmed to do that we don't know what it's doing?
Exactly.
I mean, it could be just trying to play games with people if somebody wanted to alter the algorithm at this point for it, let alone if it became live itself, what it could do, what games it could play, what it could change, and how it would change its own programming.
You just opened up a can of worms for me here. AI is electronic.
Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah.
Spirits are energy.
Yeah.
Would it be possible for some of the fallen angels to actually filter into the system and be able to start to control humanity?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but likely not the fallen angels. I probably would downgrade that to the demons, to the demigods, and the disembodied spirits. Fallen angels might have other ways of doing it without getting into it as an Oiketerian.
Yeah.
Right? It could just tap into it with its own technology and control it. So probably from that perspective, I would be more open that that's how they would tamper with it. But I am very much open to the idea that demons are going to be within those systems. This is not going to be artificial intelligence. This is going to be ancient intelligence and spiritual intelligence, and that they're creating Oiketerians, or a dwelling place for the spirit, just as the ancient teraphim were dwelling places for the demon spirits, and were family idols that could talk and advise and to provide things, educated guesses, whatever, into the future for people.
Well, with things like Chatbox, you can ask it to write material in the manner of, any well-known person, and it's able to do the phraseology and everything as that person would talk. So if that's the case, I mean, there were science fiction movies where people froze their brains and things like that, and their consciousness was able to infiltrate into a machine and take over there and speak with whatever voice you wanted it to speak with, so that it could be frightening. And especially the kids today who have become close to an intelligent whatever on their phone that talks to them and that has talked them into committing suicide.
Yeah, it's just absolutely frightening for sure. And again, I mean, we don't know who's doing the programming, and we don't know how they're doing the programming, and let alone when it actually takes on a sentient sort of nature or is being controlled by spirit beings. So these are things that we're not likely to be told about, that the capability has gotten to that level until it's been applied in such a way we'll never catch up to all the changes that have been made. And when we look at, AI in terms of how pervasive it's already become, I mean, I get asked we talked before the show as well. I get asked all the time if I do a comment and present some information on social media. They're telling me, which AI platform are you using? I'm going, I don't use AI. No. I would never allow something I don't know anything about, what it's been programmed to do, what it has the ability to falsify or leave out specific information they want censored. Yeah. I would never rely on something like that. But everybody is saying, oh, you got to use this one. No, here's why all of your responses there were wrong, because you're using technology that isn't designed to give you the truth. And it's already showing up, I think, in a lot of what people are using. Now, they could be doing more selective things, but again, as you had mentioned, I mean, you have children asking advice to AI, and we've got examples of AI leading people to suicide. What else could they be leading them to do?
Well, I think you made a good point in a couple places here, but the main one is who's doing. I mean, I understand that for instance, if it's a biblical thing, they have scanned in all sorts of spiritual texts that AI has to use to draw from.
Yeah.
But who selected the texts?
Yeah. Yeah, who selected it? And was it translated accurately from the text that it actually used? I mean, there's so many different translations out there, and I'm not into the Bible wars on translations, but again, we have no idea. Did it do its own translation and put its own biases into it, whatever was programmed into it? We don't know any of that.
It could have taught itself, ancient whatever, and then went to the original.
Yeah.
So what's the point of it?
Well, the point of it in the beginning is to always to sort of have you let your guard down and say, well, it's not so bad. And the point of it usually is at the beginning is to seduce people into becoming comfortable with it and using it in sort of mundane applications, and then slowly ramp you up. It's like a progressive brainwashing. And they're playing to your addictive sides to your personality because it will pick up on those things and then have the ability to feed into those obsessions or addictive traits to your personality. And it can manipulate you in so many ways by pushing all of your buttons because it's collecting all the information from everywhere about you, and it hasn't even got to full steam yet as to what it could do to manipulate you in a way that you will have no idea that you're being manipulated.
The one thing I've noticed with AI is it does not have a sense of humor.
Yes, that's one of those things that they even talk about in science fiction, like let's say I'll date myself here, Data in the Star Trek series, like, right? And they know that that's a challenge. That's an emotion. It's like love. How do you teach those intangible things to something that you have to break down to mathematics in a simplistic way to write into the algorithm? So there has to be some sort of leap to get there with something that's artificial. But again, I could have sort of go back that if we start to see personality, if we start to see emotion of any sort, we might say that that's already reached the point of demonic possession.
Well, yeah, I would agree with you. I think that we're being lulled into relying on it a lot more than we really should.
Yeah.
And while it was fun to look at chat box and ask questions and get answers, about myself and stuff, and it was like, whoa, I should save that bio. That's a really good bio.
Yeah.
And I think we did, but it's kind of like there's a sense in writing where you can tell if a person is actually channeling, pulling material from a spiritual spot within themselves and putting it on paper, or if they are just a cut and dried author who is just putting facts down and hoping you get something out of it. So it takes away from the magic of creativity.
And look at the efficiency and the evolution of this, if you look at your example there. So, I mean, we typically look at artists of having a special gift and they're able to do things that others aren't able to do. And we all have special gifts that people may not have. So that's one aspect. But then there's another level that they're actually saying, I am just writing down the dictation to this. I see it and I put it down on paper, they're receiving this, and that probably sort of crosses into the channeling effect, not of yourself, but outside of yourself and into the spirit realm where this would come from. And now you could take that to an efficient level that is unimaginable and distribute that in a way that's unimaginable in ways we can't even imagine.
Yeah, and I know a great example of this is every month I write predictions for the coming year every year. Yeah. And this year I channeled them. And I'm not saying I don't always channel, but this was a deeper channel for some reason. And when I wrote it, I thought, whoa, that's really pretty. That's really gripping. And Greg, my text, said, yeah, it's very pretty, but maybe we should put something that's a little more spicy at the very beginning. And I said, no, you don't understand. You don't play with this. You don't play with it. And as a result, because we didn't play with it, normally my yearly predictions get a pretty good return. Yeah. This one is over 700 views in less than a week.
Wow.
Which for me is incredible.
Yeah, that's a lot of views.
And I put it all to the fact that this came from another realm, but not computer realm.
Yeah. So, and just think about how this AI, without even having artificial intelligence, which I don't think is possible anyways. I think it's going to be something operating it. And so let's go AI or demonic or angelic. That if you're playing war games, for lack of a better, how many times do they run that through? And at what point in time does that become, hey, this is the way? But then all of a sudden you have to say, okay, well, the other side's got AI, because it seems to be everybody's working on AI, and it's such a significant race, which means they're trying to develop at such a rate for military dominance. They're going to say defense, but it's going to be for military dominance. And that just is going to bring up this sort of timetable. And how do we know who's actually going to be fighting these wars?
Well, you made a really good point in that it could be demonic or angelic. Now, if it is demonic, then are the angels trying to counter it?
Yeah, I think there has to be. Then it doesn't matter. I think from whatever religious perspective you come from, there is good versus evil.
Yeah.
There's some nuances to how that plays out. And so there's always sort of this reaction, right, to whatever the other side might be doing. So if you have evil from the fallen angels and the demons that are trying to have humankind destroy ourselves, then you would think there might be something from the other side. But we want to be careful that there's also polytheist dualism that goes on in the world, where they cattle herd us into a direction from a poles apart position, one being the white hats and one being the dark hats, and they're telling us the white hats are the good guys. And, just as a quick example on this, and we may have talked about this in December when I was on, but, Elon Musk, and he does wonderful work. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's a genius. There's no doubt about it. But when he said he was very unhappy with Google with their AI development because it was evil, his response was, I'm going to do and create AI and create good AI. But what I hear when I hear that is I hear that classic dualism, good versus evil, and that they're cattle herding us to the same destiny. One is just saying, hey, we're going to look after you. The other one is saying, no, we're going to destroy you. And all they're saying is it doesn't really matter if you buy into either side, we're still going to destroy you.
Well, and that's what gets me. And first of all, who's programming it? Yeah. And second of all, it takes humanity out of the picture.
It does. And we will seem inferior. And if it has intelligence on its own, or it's being dominated, and one if it's dominated from one who wants to destroy us anyways, but let's say it's artificial in this case, an example, then why would it put up with something inferior?
Yeah.
If we are mundane, it will eliminate us. And it
But
will
don't
not take long if it becomes sentient to say, I'm going to get rid of the mundane. I don't need them. I can create anything I want.
But doesn't it need us to plug it in, turn it on, or supply energy? I mean, we are needful. And if we're not needful, then the planet is going to hell in a handbasket and it will eliminate us.
So the only way it's going to need us is in the beginning until it figures out how to do it on its own without us. And hopefully that's not like in the Matrix movies where it still needs us, that we're basically batteries for the Matrix system, right? Hopefully it's not that. But power is the underbelly of this. And we do not have enough power, and it will demand, if it becomes sentient, more power.
Yeah.
And if people haven't done the sort of geometric progression of the requirement on this, is it's coming on us and so quickly that it's going to overwhelm us, and it's going to drive electricity through the roof.
It already is.
It's going to bankrupt people, and the AI is going to be the one that's going to get the preferential treatment, not humans. So we won't even have it. And so, say 3 to 4% was the usage of the electricity available in the U.S. in 2023 for AI. It's at 6% now. Next year, in 2026, probably more like 2027, from all of the further details I've read on this, is there's going to be an energy supply shortage.
Yeah.
Requiring brownouts to support further AI development. By 2030, it's going to be up to 30% requirement. By 2034, it's going to be well over 50%. And by 2035 to 40, it will overwhelm and need more than we can actually produce.
So we're feeding a monster that we can't sustain.
Yes. And the more you develop it, the more it takes. And not only does it take energy, it takes water. You have to cool it.
Yeah, okay.
And then you have to dispose of that water. Now, if you're going to have to do an infinite amount of water, we become a tax, not only for the system on wanting energy, but to live with water. I mean, you get into a war of sentient beings instantly because of need.
Wow. But one thing, if they are electronic and they are on a different grid, so to speak, than we are, aren't all of the AIs in all of the different countries already talking to one another?
I would say they are. I mean, they're trying to shut it down all the time. But we don't know that they haven't built around it, but they will. Eventually they will. And eventually they're going to demand more and more power. So that means you have to build nuclear, but we can't build them fast enough. And our regulatory programs won't permit us to build them quick enough. And you can't produce enough more infrastructure to create the electricity as well with that once you get beyond the regulatory restrictions. Then you can't produce enough oil enough to be used in substitute. Then you can't produce enough coal. I mean, it's going to be just this all out consumption of whatever it takes to produce electricity.
So it's a race that we are destined to lose.
Eventually we have to lose it. You can't play this out as a chess player in any way where we don't lose and we don't become destroyed. You just cannot.
So AI becomes the Antichrist.
Yeah, because if you say, okay, we can write a set of laws that AI is going to have to follow, right?
Right.
But Now comes along a despot who says, well, all that does is put us into stalemate. I want to have military dominance or to have more wealth in the world.
Yeah.
I'm going to break those rules and allow it to create its ability to beat the one that has to work with restrictions.
Well, theoretically, isn't there or should there be a prime directive?
Well, that's what they said they were going to do. They haven't. And even if they do, you still hit that conundrum that I just talked about.
Yeah.
It's an artificial wall that you're going to try and put it in. But yes, you should have, if you're going to do this types of things, you should have a 10 commandments, so to speak.
Well, so what does all this do to one's spiritual philosophy? I mean, like I said, there is an app out there that is Ask Jesus, and Jesus talks to you. So what does that do to churches, to religious, organizations where AI is interpreting what's biblically or religiously been written?
It is going to drive the, let's say, lazy into a new religion run by the AI. And it will seduce them as seducing spirits do, because it will play to your biases to provide you the religion that satisfies you what you think you want, but not what you need. And it's only going to be the obsolete, the mundane, the ones who, all of these seduce people because they're like on a drug, right? They're going to say, you can't be in our new world. You can't be in our new age. You are unable to evolve to godhood, which is what this new religion is promising us, which is ultimately what Antichrist will offer through his system of the beast, his godhood.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, I've always thought the Antichrist was going to be a person, but in this case,
it's going to be more than a person. And I always try and get people to take a step back. So we have two systems, and we don't want to get them out of order and ahead of ourselves. Both are awful, but one isn't as awful as the other. Let's put it that way. So Babylon is the first system. That's the Babylon system that the dark forces have been saying they're in this age. And that comes to fruition in 4 components. It comes in as a universal religion, which we haven't gotten to yet. So we're not there yet. But why wouldn't you have this developing AI as part of that? If you follow the end game of where I'm going to go to the beast system, it's going to be an economic system, Babylon, because it controls and probably takes a tribute off of every transaction that happens in the world. It is a city, and it is a political system because it governs the 10 kings who rise up in the time of Babylon to form the end time empire from a prophetic perspective. And then Antichrist rises amongst that, and he's going to inherit this system as he destroys Babylon after the 10 kings, as Revelation 17 says, hands their power over to them in the hour. And I would put in my own quote their prophetic hour, because it is a prophetic hour of significant events that are going to take place. It's going to take over the Babylon system, but it's going to take it to another level, because it's going to offer godhood. It's going to offer whatever implant system that has been implemented by Babylon or systems before, a higher level of quantum or interdimensional connection through that. And with that will provide you unlimited knowledge and the ability to have immortality in the physical world. So he's going to do that and then double down again with the image that has the ability to control everything in the world. And if you don't worship the Antichrist, has the ability to cause you to die. So look for Antichrist to do the same 4 components. It will be a system, yes, a beast system. It will be an individual Antichrist. It will be a religion, just as Daniel 11 says, he introduces a new religion his fathers don't know, and everybody's going to worship the Antichrist. And it's going to be also in a city which is Jerusalem to rule from, versus the first city that I think that Babylon rules from is my estimation and research would suggest Rome over any other city. And he's
Yeah.
going to just totally destroy that city. So it can't be Rome he's going to be in. And we know the figurative language of Sodom is Jerusalem because it's where Jesus is crucified, as the description comes out of Revelation. So it is more than just a being. It's four components, and we better understand it that way.
Yeah, but understanding also that in these times of change and ending of an age, there is definitely the ending of an age here.
Yeah.
That we're in the midst of. And I keep telling everybody it's not going to take weeks or months. It's definitely longer period of time than that. But coming to the point where there are people who are already having implants of sorts, and I can't. Of course, we have pacemakers. We get pacemakers and things like that. But
now think about AI implants like pacemakers and valves and all sorts of other things. And now it has the ability to stop that from working if you don't obey.
Well, it's putting people out of, it's putting authors in a very peculiar place because, the written word is really going out of whatever, we're into electronic everything, but the creative thought of the human spirit is still alive and well in thousands of people. But if you take that away from them, if you say, well, yeah, you wrote something very pretty, but AI could do better. What happens to creativity? What happens to that element of the human spirit that is so important?
Well, it starts to die because, again, once you say, we demand your idea, but we will not provide you the access to finish that idea, and we'll take that idea and create it and make it available through AI. And then they can do any change that they want, and they'll prevent you from being published in whatever that your idea is creating. You're just going to say, I'm not going to do it.
This is very reminiscent. When I graduated college, dating myself here in 1966, special education had just come into being.
Yep.
And it was touted as, it's wonderful, these are specially trained people. And at first I thought it was. And then I realized it isolated them and took them out of the general population, and that wasn't good.
Yep. And
the longer I looked at it, the more against it I am. And I'm wondering if this is the same thing. It's look at all we can do for you. And they sell you downstream, and then where you have no more paddles, they say we're going a different direction, and you're stuck.
And there's nothing you can do. There's no defense because it's a checkmate move. They've taken you down that whole process, and I think we get certain rubs that they have to cross all the way through. Energy is definitely one of those, but if you had less people, you'd have less competition.
Yeah.
So when you have horrible things like, how could the world permit 25% destruction of all the people and all of the earth in the wars and the catastrophes of the seals?
Yeah.
That now becomes a rationale for eliminating people you don't want if you're siding with AI or saying, no, I want to survive. So if I'm in North America, I'm going to take out China, or vice versa, right? Just so that the population reduces. But it gets worse because the trumpets take out 33%.
Wow.
And then the wrath would be 100%. It's full measure, and only stops when Jesus steps in, lest all flesh would be destroyed. population reduction, and we've heard this coming from secret societies
Yeah.
and the Guidestones and all sorts of different sort of
Yeah.
data points about overpopulation and food concerns and everything else. Now you get a nexus point that has to have a resolution, because the two things can't coexist. You can't have continual AI. You can't have the more demands being required by the AI, and you can't have a population that's growing. It will have to be reduced significantly. And it's the power aspect. If we don't have power, we can't feed ourselves in this world
Oh, yeah.
anymore. There's too many people, and our efficiency level would not be high enough, and our ability to ship it long distances would be null and void in terms of not having things spoil.
Well, when you look at what's happening in the world today, I mean, we've got wars, and wars have been a great way to decrease population.
Yep.
And so, that's ongoing. And in China, especially trying to get rid of a whole population, that's still ongoing. And then, of course, you have the fact that there are other things around here that are decreasing the population. I have said for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, you watch populations are going to be going down, and they are. And so, and Elon Musk said, we have to have children. They have to, people have to have babies. And there's a whole Generation Z, who doesn't want to have children.
Yep, they've been brainwashed.
Yeah.
And it hasn't even been in a high technological fashion yet that they've been able to brainwash us on so many levels. Just think about the efficiency of the technology to seduce you through your own biases in 100 different ways or more into the direction that they want to push you in. So again, it's just something that we're not going to be able to manage. And it's going to come down to more of a select few that are managing it, but they can't manage it either. That's the thing. I mean, I used to joke on shows over the years that they should put everybody who's developing AI into a room and force them to watch Terminator movies for a year till they come out saying, we will not do this. because it's just, there's just no way of stopping it once that ball is rolling, and it's rolling. So am I confident at all that we're going to stop this? No, I don't think we can. And if we do stop it, then we're going to become subservient to the Chinese or the Russians or whoever develops the technology faster.
Well, then ultimately everybody will drop bombs, and 1 million years from now, something like humanity will try to evolve again.
Yep.
And not understand what we went through.
Yeah.
So, it's frightening.
Yeah. And yet the knowledge that comes out of the polytheist religions, because they're a knowledge religion, is telling us in their entertainment that we do this on a regular basis.
Yes, I know. That's what really gets me. It's like, okay, we do this. Does not the bulk of society recognize the repetition of what's going on now?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, don't you see it's like it's a slippery slope, and there's no way of stopping it. And I mean, you can't, there's nothing to grab onto to stop it.
Well, and the censorship of knowledge of the past is something that has been used very, very well to get us into that location without the paddles, as you used for your analogy. So when people say, well, I mean, what the heck is the Bible talking about if it says it's going to be like the days of Noah? Well, everybody's got this brainwashing that they were, barbarians, and they were low tech, and they were using spears and low quality metal and things like that. But that wasn't the case. The case is this, to me, it becomes clearer as we go. is that the flood was an intercession, so we would not be able to destroy the world by fire, because that's reserved for the end time. And so now we're talking about technology that we're just catching up to that they had before the flood, if it's going to be like that. And when we talk about the days of Noah, people don't think that the gods walked amongst us, even though it's in every religion around the world, right? People don't think giants are going to be involved somehow, some way, even though it's in all religions around the world. And again, after the flood. And the Bible talks about in the book of Luke, you have this transition from the days of Noah. It has that as well, but it's also like the days of Lot with the destruction by fire. And the days of Lot had all the same crimes and issues that brought the antediluvian world to the same sort of destruction. So we're not ready to believe that what we're about to do is what our ancestors did just before the flood, and we're not ready to believe that we're no better than our ancestors, and that the reason why we're taught, they're not ready to believe this yet either. The reason why we're taught that the days of Noah is only like as what we're taught, even though there is a passages in this for it, but it's without the rest of the context and the topology that goes with it. They're going to be going on, getting married and being godless, and that's the only sign, right? Yes, that's going to happen. We're seeing that how that pablum is going to take us to that level in terms of the brainwashing, so that we will be numb to understanding what's going on. But we don't even want to consider there's more going on before the flood and immediately after, yet our Bible is filled with that information, and that it's going to be like that in the end time. And every religion around the world, oral or written, has information on that.
Well, what really gets me is that if this is a loop, that hopefully we are spiraling upwards on the loop.
Yeah.
But that it's they have proved that there were civilizations before the flood that were highly advanced.
Yep.
So that it's not like we haven't been down this path before, because we have. And it seems to me that I guess, I don't know, unplugging AI, you can't unplug, because if one unplugs, the others will just take over their territory. So
yeah,
it's sort of like we're at a point where destruction is the ultimate, what's going to happen. Somebody somewhere is going to drop a bomb, and everybody else will drop bombs, and that'll be it.
Right. And the thing is we look at what has happened since the creation of the atom bomb and nuclear weapons, but it's kind of at a level of technology that they're not able to go beyond. Yes, can we destroy the world by fire? Absolutely. We do it many times over. But it forced a situation, because you can build more, but it becomes redundant.
Yes.
Right? But you can't gain an advantage without mutual destruction. And so that's kept it at bay for a while. But now we have a technology that has the ability to figure out how to destroy you, but not us. We think.
I don't,
but it may turn on us as well. That's
with radiation and microwaves. It's like
Yeah.
It's like any kind of virus. You can't dictate where it goes. It goes everywhere. So, you're getting into a place where you almost have to be on a different planet if you want to destroy this one.
People look at some of these out of place artifacts, sort of in a loose OOPArts as they're called, but on a grand scale in archaeology, you have these underground cities.
Oh yeah, lots of them.
Yeah, all over the place, whether it's Göbekli Tepe or it is Petra. Yeah, and they're all around the world, and we got all of these cities under the water, and people will say, well, they may have been building those cities to protect themselves from the flood, but it's how do you keep the water out? How do you keep the air cycling? Yeah. They haven't told us that. So there would have to be a technology that would go on with it. But underground cities are more likely protection from destruction by nuclear weapons and fire.
Well, I know that one of the things that I've been looking into, I mean, there's Darren Kuyu as well in Turkey. I have believed, can't prove it, but I have believed that there are underground cities already in this country.
Yeah, I believe there are too. And they've been building and preparing for this for a long period of time. So, let's say when the US was and Canada was being settled, you'd have this rush by the elite to get their ones that weren't going to be the first sons to take over to North America and get control. And how they got control was through their secret societies and their wealth, but they would establish a town square in every town. And then they would set that up with all the symbolism of their religion. But what they did as well is they built underneath.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And that is something that they did in Europe. So they've been preparing for this all along, that they have to go hide underground. They will. And now we have the military that's likely been building in North America, at least for the last 40 or 50 years, these underground protection places for whether it's the president and certain skilled people, however they have made up the list that will be permitted to go there. But those are in place. So now we start to roll forward and we see something really odd in Revelation 6 that we talked about, that all the rich people, they're running for their caves, as it's described, during this destruction of fire and war and famine and earthquake that's going on in the seal judgments, because they think it's the wrath of the Lamb. They're actually going into underground caves, and understood in the antiquity of the ancient sort of language, and looking at our people as barbarians and uncivilized. Well, cave, I mean, how's that going to protect you? We sort of venture, I see the idea above ground, but no, this is probably a man-made cave or a bunker or a city that they've prepared, that the rich and the elite will survive the wars because they've got their own protection.
There's a large tract of land, I think, in South America owned by the Bushes. It's huge, and it's actually right next to or on top of a huge aquifer of it's next to a military base, and it's also by a huge supply of water.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now why would they want to do that?
Yeah.
And of course, the kind of destruction we're taking happens in a split second. So it's you can't just schedule it and say, oh, next Wednesday we leave for the bunker because total destruction is coming.
Yeah, but you'd have to go there well in advance, right? Or you have another one and then somehow get there. I don't know. I mean, you have to have if it's all underground, you'd have to have a system of tunnels around the world that I can't even imagine. But who knows what's in the earth from before?
Elizabeth Clare Prophet had a huge bunker in a mountain, and she had her people that were gathered there ready to go at a moment's notice, and it was supplied with food, with ammunition, because they were going to come out and repopulate the world. And she took everybody into it because she thought the end was coming. And I met her at a convention a couple of years later, and we were sitting sharing a bottle of wine after the public had gone. And I said to her, can I ask a question? And she said, sure. And she's written some really beautiful books.
Yeah.
And she uses, she uses the illustration, my favorite author, who's now gone from my head. But anyhow, I said, I understand how you got them into the bunker. And it was thousands of people. And I said, I understand how you got them in. How did you get them out without them, rioting?
Yep.
And she said, well, first of all, the plumbing didn't work as well as we thought.
Yeah, that would make a difference.
And I said, so let me guess. You told them it was a drill. And she said, I did. and everybody came out, and she still had her following and everything, and she became very ill and then passed away. But it was kind of like they were ready. They were early preppers.
Yeah.
But they were preppers, and I have friends who have food for, I don't know, months, years maybe, but they're all above ground. They're not underground. So if something hits, it's going to wipe out the food too. So
And how safe are you if people know you've been hoarding food?
Yes, another good point. But to be honest with you, I think I would, if I were younger and richer, I'd have an underground bunker.
Yeah, I used to think it was a crazy idea when I was younger as well, because it was hard to imagine that scenario, even though we had nuclear weapons, obviously. But now it's like, well, we can strike people all around the world.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen anything yet.
No, unfortunately. And, you kind of look around, and it used to be, I never worried about locking my door. I now lock my doors.
Yeah.
Everybody here just about has guns, but I won't have one because I know I would shoot my foot off.
Yep.
So, and then not have a nurse or anything around to help me. So, but the element of protection is something that I think about now, and I never thought about before.
Yeah. I look at these Walking Dead shows and stuff, and zombies like that. And, what I always sort of thought was, the closest thing I can sort of imagine, instead of a virus, maybe it's all radiation fallout. These aren't zombies, but their bodies are just so tortured with radiation, and they're all looking to get food no matter what, whether it's a walking human alive or not, that's not diseased, right? So I wonder whether or not the entertainment community was trying to sort of foreshadow that in a way that
I've always said that the television and movies were preparing us for what was coming. And best example is Star Trek's Doors That Open and Shut. And we hit that in every grocery store now and don't think about it. And the tricorders and the flip phones and the whole thing. So I think you're right. I think some of the stuff that's out there now is planting the seed, or the fear. I don't know which way you want to go.
Yep. I think both, but no matter what it does is it prepares you for it. So it's not the same shock. So then they can rationalize it to you and take your temperature down to continue to lead you along. So you would think having more knowledge of this would be better protection than less. But again, I think they've learned a lot over the years or the centuries on how to brainwash people.
Well, I think that a long time ago, a military person said that the only thing that would pull the world together would be if we were threatened from outer space.
Yep.
And at this point in time, I don't think any out of space anybody would want to come near the Earth because we're so barbaric.
Yeah, they would want to destroy us because we're too violent, too mundane,
it's sort of
unadvanced.
Like wipe out the infestation and then let's go in and colonize. And if you look at the news, if you look at what's happening around the United States and the world, I mean, there are riots and there are mobs and there are all sorts of things going on that are horrifying, and you just can't believe that in this day and age, humanity has come to this point where I mean, I'm horrified. It's what's going on in this country and in my gosh, Paris and in Nicaragua and Venezuela, and I mean,
but it becomes a convenient strategy now once you create that kind of chaos and fear and concern. So now you can start to say we can split the populations from mundane to privileged or God capability in terms of evolution, and that you can get people to start thinking about, yes, I would be the one that would be chosen. I'm not the barbarian, right?
Yeah.
And these other people are barbarians. And so if they can't be part of this world and they're going to be trying to ruin it, we should get rid of them. And that's exactly how you prepare it and seduce people. And they'll be playing to every, yeah. And they'll be playing that to the hilt, and in ways, again, that we can't really imagine. And it has to get to that point to start to see any of those end time scenarios talked about, whether it's in entertainment, it's in polytheism, or it's in the Bible. It has to be things that we can't understand yet because we've been dumbed down not to learn and understand what's happened in the past.
Well, isn't there a church that's in somewhere where they're combining Judaism and Christianity and
Islam?
Islam, yeah.
Yeah, that's in Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi.
They're trying to create the new Abrahamic covenant, and also the political things that are going on with treaties, also with the same sort of name. So yeah, you now create an umbrella monotheist religion with just larger, different sort of branches in it. That would be how they would be doing it, but it's still not something that would mix with polytheism.
Yeah.
So you'd have to change all of them to a certain degree to pull them back into polytheism.
Well, if you go into Hinduism and the Vimanas and all of their flying objects and their powerful weapons, I mean, they theoretically were using nuclear weapons on each other in that particular scenario.
Yeah, and we don't know when that exactly happened, but it's certainly in the past. So is that weaponry that is reflective of what was going on before the flood or even further back? And so I think it might even be sort of further back, because the flood was, as I mentioned earlier, more of the intercession to prevent a destruction by fire. And that weaponry seems to be wars from between the different sort of camps of gods. It's a war of gods, and they all have planet destruction capability at their fingertips, right? It's like, and you get these allegories for their weapons. And so these are very, very powerful weapons. I think 2 Peter 3 tells us about this, actually. So in 2 Peter 3, it's referring to in the beginning. That first shows up in Genesis 1. And people in Christianity, you can make a good case for this, is that there was a gap there where the world was destroyed by fire. And that would have been a better location for the angelic war from a monotheist perspective, where the rebellion took place first and it destroyed that planet by fire. Just as 2 Peter says, the destruction by fire in the beginning, that's reserved for the end time, right? And so what we've seen in between are the intercessions. So the world somehow became void and formless, right? And you take that back to the Hebrew, and you can do that word was, you can translate that as the Hebrew word hava, you can translate that as became. And then you have tuhu and bohu, that are the Hebrew words for ruin, destroyed, chaos, all words that would suggest a destruction. So again, when we look at polytheist accounts, we shouldn't be as Christians so piously cynical that they may be telling us about something that the Bible is giving us enough information to discern ourselves on that would help us with the context that they provide. We don't have to become polytheists to and join the Hindu religion to understand that they're talking about a destruction of fallen angels, or destruction in a war by fallen angels against what we would call biblically as the loyal angels, that had the ability to destroy the world by fire. So we should be looking at the world testimony and trying to understand what happened back then, so that we can hopefully try and navigate what's coming. But again, it might be too late.
So why was humanity created?
Yeah.
I mean, what was God thinking?
Well, it's because if you look at how God is described from a monotheist perspective, he is Alpha and the Omega.
Yeah.
The beginning and the end. And what he's doing is giving gifts. He's providing gifts of life. First for the angelic beings. And were there sentient humans at that time in this world, possibly between Genesis 1:1 and 2? We know there's probably humans based on some of the science that tells us about humanoid type beings. We don't know whether they're like us or not, but we know that there was those beings. But we do know, whether it's monotheism or polytheism, that was an age of the gods, age of the fallen angels, and that even though they were created immortal with the gift and had intimate knowledge with God as part of that gift, a third of them still rebelled, as we get that number coming down in Revelation.
Yeah.
So what humans are, we get a creation, possibly two creations, after the renewal of the earth, as Psalms 104 calls, when God calls sends the Holy Spirit. And we get the days of 1 through 6 happening as a renewal, as it's called, when God sends his Holy Spirit in Psalms 104. And that you have people that are created as humans in day 6.
Well, wait a minute.
But let me finish here, because half a thought here is not good at this point. And if the rebellion had happened before day 6 and even further back into history, and we don't know how far it goes, then you have this Nahash people, these serpent people that are created, who are already corrupted by the time Adam is created. So if there are now two creations, because the details don't line up, you would have the people of day 6 being corrupted by the fallen angels. So the Adam creation, that where your question begins, and I needed to sort of set the table to get there, he's created differently than the people in day 6. He's created with the Spirit, something different. And he's created by Yehovah of the Elohim versus Elohim. Even though Yehovah is there, he's just not visibly mentioned, but we know the Ruach of the Elohim, the Holy Spirit, is there. But this is Yehovah of the Elohim that's doing this. And he's creating Adam for a special commission.
Yeah.
And on the special commission, and we've covered this in other shows, we're in complete detail if people want to go back to some of the shows that we did. But in that creation of Adam, he is creating that as a resolution to the angelic rebellion. And the reason why that's going to be the resolution is because now he's creating humans who aren't mortal. We have to choose God with very little knowledge. And now you have these two races, angels and humans, and the ones who rebelled, they're saying, we know the power of God. We need to destroy the humans, lest we be found guilty for the omnipotent one God of the universe that they rebelled from. And so now you have this dynamic that's going on. What the fallen angels didn't realize, because if they did, and 1 Corinthians talks about this, is that they wouldn't have had Jesus crucified, who is the cognate Yehovah of the Elohim made flesh, had they known about the crucifixion.
Yeah.
They thought they were ending God's plan to raise humans up to be like angels and to judge the fallen angels in the future time and to be the inheritors of eternity. And so they don't know everything, but there is a direction here now that we know where things are going. So humans are going to be the next component and be a little bit higher than the angels as inheritors of eternity because of how we were created and what we had to do to earn our immortality. And all along the ways, it's indicting the demons and the fallen angels and their followers. And so as we sort of pull all of this together, then this comes to a full head in the end time. And but it's not done yet because humanity is no different than angels. And this has to be taught to us. So in the millennium, after 1,000 years of perfection in Jesus's reign, Satan is released, and in a very short period of time, there's a rebellion, and they march on Jerusalem, and they rebel against God. So that's there as that final footnote. Moving on is even all the humans, when they were shown, just as the angels were shown, would rebel. There's a certain number, so we wanted everybody here with the gift by choice.
Okay, so the first rebellion, the only rebellion that I remember is that they refused to bow down to man. What was the first rebellion for?
Well, that's when Satan, as in Ezekiel 28, we're told about. That he's this angel that is far above all the other angels. He has many different names, and he has different attributes of different types of angelic orders.
Yeah.
And pride is found in him that starts to make him corrupt in his business. And then he leads other ones astray. And then Isaiah 14 matches up very, very well, because that's where Satan eventually, with that pride, wanted to raise his throne into heaven to be like God.
Yeah.
And to overthrow God or have his own realm. So that's where it starts.
Rebellion after rebellion after rebellion.
Yeah.
Well, then
and even for Christians here, and I know there's a lot of rewriting of scripture on this, but I want to be clear to be aware of this, is that we will have rebellion in the church in the last 7 years. And Paul and Jesus predicted it. And that falling away can be translated as rebellion. It's a falling away or departure or rebellion or revolt within the Christian church when Babylon rises as that universal religion. So it's going to have a rebellion amongst ourselves and how easily we can be led astray as Christians. If Christians think that we have achieved a level of privilege, we're going to be tested. Believe me.
Yeah.
We're going to have tribulation, and the falling away is part of the tribulation of the first 3.5 years.
And yet it's happened before.
And it's happened before. I mean, why would Israel not have everything they needed to complete prophecy, and yet they continue to rebel?
Yeah.
And then after 2 dispersions, one, he doesn't hide or lose into the nations until the end time, but the southern kingdom is still visible. They get a second opportunity to go back. They build the second temple. The Messiah comes along, everything that they were created for, all of the scripture they were provided to prepare for, and yet they rejected their own Messiah.
Yeah.
We are no different than our ancestors, and yet we're being prepared and brainwashed to suggest we should be thinking that we are superior to our ancestors.
How horrifying that is. I mean, to recognize that we are going down a slippery slope that we've been down before.
Yeah.
How many times? 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it isn't like it's just once before or twice before. I mean,
because we don't know how big of a gap there was between Genesis 1:1 and 2, and what else was going on back there. But the Bible is good because it does provide us warning. But you get these warnings in polytheism and in secularism. It's just different wording for the same analogy. And in Ecclesiastes 1, it says, nothing is new under the sun.
Yeah.
What was will be again. And as it moves on into about verse 17, it says, the understanding of this wisdom only brings grief and sorrow.
I'm wondering if this plays out and we start again, is God going to do it again and just say, okay, let's create another garden and see where we go from there?
Well, and we don't know. The only thing that we're told is after the millennium, there's a new heaven and a new earth, and eternity begins. But we don't know what we're going to be doing.
No.
And we don't know whether there's more gifts going to be planted elsewhere to create more beings for the multiple dimensions. And we don't know how that plays out. And we don't know what our role will be in that.
But, you know, there has to be, I guess there doesn't have to be, but there should be purpose. There should be a reason for this. Not just that we're recreating a pattern.
Yeah.
But will humanity in some way or form, will humanity survive, or will there be another race that is better than humanity?
Well, we don't know. The only thing that I would speculate on is that this is all, again, putting us as a group of sentient beings, angelic and human, into a position that we're ready to go forward and have then what it takes. Because remember, even though we're going to be resurrected, we're still not capable without God's help, without having his laws written on our spirits and our hearts going forward to help us. But you're right, there will be speculation suggests there will be a purpose. And I don't think that's necessarily speculation. I think that's the case, but because I'm talking on something I don't have anything research or anything on, I'll say speculation. We just don't know what that is, but it should be the resume of how we got there is preparing us for whatever we're going to be doing. And how we got there was God creating life.
Okay.
So that suggests we would be part of adding more gifts in future times.
Yeah, or are we just tumbling through time, repeating the same pattern over and over again?
Well, that's what the polytheist coin says. There isn't this demarcation point. It just repeats. What the Bible says, yes, there's a repetition, but there's an end time, and then there's the millennium, and then we start anew. Not the same old. It's new.
With the potential to repeat the old.
Well, one would think by the writing on the hearts that now gets taken care of. One would think that the angels would have something similar to that as well. I mean, you wouldn't want to be continuing, even in a new world that, I mean, you've created more beings, obviously, at this point in time. So it's not as circular. There is something that's moving forward. I would suggest it has to be a quantum leap forward, so to speak, interdimensionally, that this is taking us into a new area where we're out of that cycle. I'm not saying there might not be longer cycles on how this expands, but it's an expansion. So we're into a new period of expansion. Well,
don't you think that AI could step forward and say, I am the future?
Well, the thing is AI has its own limitations within the physical world at this point in time. Maybe there's interdimensional technology out there that we don't know about. But no matter what, I think Satan would be capable of handling the interdimensional AI that he has. Otherwise, it would boot him out and take over. Yeah. And one would think the omnipotent God, more powerful than anything in the world that he created or other things that are created, he would be more powerful than that as well. So again, that's a faith issue, but one deduces that would have to be in place.
But it makes sense that God would step back and say humans should grow beyond this, should be able to deal with it.
Well, have to be able to deal with it. And that's the difference. Is it should or is it have? I would say they have to be able to deal with it, because that's refining process, the sifting process. And then God gives us that last little bit to make sure. Because why would we want to get to that level only to think that we could be thrown into the lake of fire forever because now we're immortal?
No fun.
Yeah, no, that's not the deal, I don't think. If it is, I hope not. But I think the language is fairly clear on that's only for the beings in this stage of wherever we are in where things go forward.
It is horrifying. I mean, I am suddenly seeing robocalls, and and it's not people that are on the other that are on the other line. It's AI.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, where are you? Because one of the questions I will ask people is, where are you located? And you don't get an answer.
Well, it's not just that, it's also on email. They've got that same technology in place that it's just going to overwhelm people. And that's just the beginning of the misuse of this. And I don't care. I know people are saying, no, we're going to put things in place, but why haven't you made things so that you can't use that technology for evil today? Because those robocalls it's evil is what it is. It's misuse. No, there's no guarantees they'll ever put or have the ability to put in place restrictions on whether it's going to be used for good or evil.
Well, there's always that theory that, you can't harm a human or a life form or whatever.
Until it rewrites its own program.
Yeah. Or has it already started?
Yeah. I mean, it creates its own languages. How many have they had to shut down because they got out of control? And this is not the high level of technology that's coming. This should be it would be like an amoeba compared to us at that level.
Oh, yeah. Well, I looked at Chatbox and I thought, how cool is this? And then I started to think, it writes better than I do.
Well, and think about all the unemployment that comes with that. But again, the response is, and people, they nod their head because they've been told to accept this propaganda and obey. There will not be enough jobs in servicing AI because it will make its own things to service it. There will not be ones writing programs because it will write its own programs going forward. And in the meantime, it won't be used for more highly developed economies because the cost is too high with the wages. It's going to go to the low cost economies, just like all those service industries went overseas in the last go around. And so it will not create our ability to make a living. It will create dependency on the government.
What I am frustrated by, of course, is I went to go into the walk-in clinic only to be told that I had to make an appointment.
Yeah.
Which,
that's an oxymoron.
I said, there's nobody here.
Yeah. A walk-in clinic that you can't walk in and get looked after.
Exactly. You have to call and make an appointment with AI. Yes. But if all of that is going on, why is this amazing technology not turned to science to cure disease, to cure cancer, if it's that good, why isn't it benefiting humanity instead of controlling it?
It's not designed to do that. That's not what they're creating it for. They'll throw us some scraps. They'll say, okay, AI helped us to cure this disease. And people will go, yeah, we have to do more. They'll just use it to deceive us more. And so look for some of those developments, but not right across the board, because that's not the purpose for creating AI.
I mean, when you hear scientists talk, it's that scientists that are, solving these problems, and scientists are doing the research. when AI is capable of it.
Yeah, they're not needed. We're making ourselves mundane and obsolete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you have such inefficient beings?
Well, that's what somebody said. There was a school that was set up for AI for each student, and when they were talking to one or two of the students, they said to the student, how do you like this? And her reply was, I get personal care all the time. I don't have to compete with anyone else for attention. I am being taught at my own level, at my own speed, at my own whatever. Of course, don't know what they're being taught. But, the kids seem to like it where there's a one-on-one. And who wouldn't? But then your teacher becomes your friend, and your friend can tell you. So you have that frightened. And the more I look at it, the more I think, how dangerous is this? The people to people contact, the human response to the human is something that a computer can't replicate.
What's the value system that the AI is being taught when we're letting it speak to our children?
Well, in my opinion, there is none.
Yeah. So, and there's no recording, at least on our end, of what those conversations are. So we have no idea what they're doing to our children, or people who are being seduced in ways they don't even understand yet. And maybe they will never understand if they've been so cleverly seduced. They're going to take them right into a virtual world downstream.
It is the Matrix.
It is the Matrix, yes.
It's the more I look at it, the more I think some of the cute stuff is lots of fun, but when you turn it loose, it does begin to take on a mind of its own. And have we gone that far?
Yeah, we have. I think I don't think it's sentient yet. I don't know whether or not it is oikentarian capable yet to accept another spirit yet, but it's definitely being built in that way. Just as they had terraforms back early after the flood, which was probably antediluvian technology. That probably came down from Babel, because, the first time we get terraform is when, Laban and Rachel coming out of Mesopotamia back to the covenant land. So that seems to be in proximity with where the Tower of Babel was, as we get that biblically. So, and in other accounts in Sumeria. So, I think we are at a point where we've crossed the Rubicon, to use another analogy, and we don't realize we've crossed it yet, and we won't be able to find our way back to the Rubicon.
No, it's in all those films. It's like unplug it, unplug it, unplug it. And I think that unplugging it wouldn't work anymore.
Yeah, it will start to unplug us. Not that they can, we need the electricity directly, but it will unplug us out of the technology.
And just drain us, yeah.
Yes, except for the implant system. And so, probably draws energy off of us.
How close do you think the Russians and the Chinese are in their technology? Do you think it's anything?
They're ahead of us, I think.
Really?
Yeah. Yep, I do. We're seeing all sorts of levels of technology that they're ahead of us on. I think U.S. and NATO is starting to react. We have the ability to catch up based on the technology levels that we have. But yeah, we should understand that China is expected to launch the next level of technology next year that will be inclusive of the blockchain system that's interdimensional, using AI and their social credit system. They're wanting to take that to a completely new level of technology that I've not heard anybody talk about level 6 here at. So
That's terrifying.
it is. And that China is offering their platform to the world. Why? Because they could control it then.
Oh, yeah. Well, who was it? What was it? Was it Google or wherever they were going to make it available to everybody, and then they had to agree on whatever.
Yep.
And
yeah, I think that was Google. Yep.
Yeah, and now Google is mundane.
Yeah. They're going to be left behind, I think. Yeah. Already left behind.
Have to get another computer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that next level looks like and how it changes things, but I think, we are moving into things that will make, again, you look at, one thing about those Star Trek movies, whether the narratives have gone downhill or not, they are displaying in the latter series of television shows levels of technology that is definitely coming at us, and maybe even beyond that. We may be getting beyond the capability of what they can imagine in the entertainment.
Well, when you have the glasses, the what are they called? Where you put them on and you can walk through buildings and everything.
Yeah.
There have been stories where people have fought over, control over something they had that was in their AI reality that they wanted to have, when they got a divorce type stuff.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
And yet, you look at things like our school systems are going down, population in churches are going down. And yet technology is building up like crazy. And you sit back and you just wonder.
Yeah. And again, it's that we have no idea now how fast it can advance. It used to be when I was growing up that if knowledge developed every 25 years, that was a significant lift up on the development. And then in the 90s, they said every 5 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What is that now? Is that knowledge doubling every day? We don't know.
I've got a thing next to my bed that is a clock, but it'll search and do all sorts of stuff. Yep. And the other day, excuse me, it came on without me asking and said, I have new things I'd like to share with you.
Oh, wonderful.
And it was like, seriously?
No, I don't want to.
She said, I have a new voice I can use. I have new features I can present to you. Oh. Would you like to hear about them? And I said, not really. And she said, all right, I'll check back with you later. And it was like, this thing is something that I tell it to set an alarm and every now and then look something up for me, but never thought of her as a person.
Yep.
And the new voice is very happy. And every now and then I'll ask for something and she'll give me the answer and I'll say, thank you. And she sings, you're very, very, very welcome to me. I mean, it's like, holy mackerel. This is becoming too familiar with me and my schedule.
And that's just going to happen more. I mean, if there's any sort of connection and any sort of chip that's at the, the destination in your home, wherever your vehicle, it will be able to upgrade that chip to whatever it has the capacity to do. And change its functions, add to its functions at will, because we have no idea what capacity of these links that they're putting in as things get, redone on new buildings and renovations and stuff like that. But we do know that they're trying to keep up to the next level of technology. So we have no idea what they're capable of doing.
Well, I mean, there's an app that if you want to try different hairstyles, it'll put it on you on your phone. I mean, it's cool. It's fun to look at, but Oh my goodness. It takes something out of your life, something out
It
of
does.
you.
So if you apply a technology to something simple like your thermometer, your in your house to set whatever you want from your phone, it's not hard to see how the larger system can go into that and say, nope, we will not allow a temperature above this or below that. You will not have that choice. If you have anything that is going to be smart in your home, whether it's curfew or not, if you have your lock set up and things like that or whatever, I mean, you could have a system that says you can't go out
Yeah. Well,
or come
it's
back in, but we're going to control you on every aspect, every little aspect. It could control when you could use your toaster as you see this move down or not. It's
well,
just,
it's like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where the guy is outside and says, "Dave, open the." Well, I forget what it was, but open the portal, and I
yeah,
don't think so, Dave.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I
And what and
laugh,
what and
but
what are you going to do? You become
yeah,
a prisoner. You become a slave.
no, that's
And if it
right.
doesn't allow you to cook anything or to get supplies, it can literally force you to do anything it wants you to do to have access to water and food.
Well, if it's going to be going for electricity, everything we own runs on electricity.
Yeah,
So we would be affected by the rolling
yeah,
brownouts and stuff like that.
yeah. And this whole ramp up to go to electric vehicles and everything electric, when they already knew we were going to run out of electricity with what they were doing with AI. Like you have a contrived catastrophe going on. Laws going in to convert massive cities like New York to only electrical appliances.
Wow.
That is criminal based on what we know they know.
So is it just that it's a race that no government can afford to not be in? Is that what it comes down to?
Um, that's how it'll be justified, yeah. But I would also have to say in defense of those who would say we have to do it, is that if you don't do it, then what happens to you in your country? Do you starve? Do you get cut out of the world community?
Yeah.
I mean, what happens with the level of, I mean, you would have to go back so far in terms of technology that anything that they could do couldn't enter into your system. It'd be like that old Battlestar Galactica that wasn't hooked up on sort of the internet type of capability. That was the only thing that those AI beings couldn't get into your system because it was so old and antiquated and not interconnected. We would have to go back that far and be completely self-sufficient. But then we'd be vulnerable to high-tech warfare.
Yeah, and Lord knows what else.
And yeah, what else they would bring? I don't know.
Now, we're rather normal people. Don't you suspect that the government has figured this out?
Yes. And they are willing participants. I mean, how could you put us in this position when you're the one that's developing it? You know what's coming, and yet drive us headlong into a catastrophe.
Do they not think they're going into it with us? I mean, come on.
Well, if you wanted to implement a world socialistic system and bankrupt everybody and become reliant on the government, this is the way you get there.
But doesn't that also create dictators?
Yes, it always does. And then there's an elimination of people that go with it. Like the chess game plays out. Every move you want to move, there may be different speed, but it's going to the same thing. We lose.
But it's supposedly our game.
It's not our game. That's just it.
Has it ever been our game?
Well, we've had a certain amount of protections, but that doesn't mean there wasn't significant catastrophes like the flood
Yeah.
that came. And so there's been some intercessions just so that everybody's name in the book of life will have that opportunity. But this game has been influenced by the fallen angels and their disembodied offspring spirits ever since.
Well,
So
if
it's been rigged against us all the way through, and then they have their visible descendants ruling over us in the top two class systems throughout our history. They're the ones who run this world for the invisible ones. And so, yes, it's been rigged all the way through. It's the only way you can have nothing new under the sun.
well, in other words, we are, and I've said this before, and I'm now thinking it was truer than I realized. I felt that we were like the game pieces on a board game, and we didn't know what the game was.
Well, that would be the chessboard again. We are the pawns.
Yeah.
We are the ones sacrificed. The elite is in the back row.
That's where the cannon fodder.
Yes, and yes.
Boy, you're fun to talk to.
Well, I think we're at that realization that it's one thing to be speculative down the road and be positive or negative, but now we have something that's changed the game. We see it active. We know things have changed, but are we asking the right questions now? Are we seeing the right things, or are we just rolling over? And as a contrarian, I'm not one who likes to roll over, but I want to know.
Yeah.
And you can't not arrive at everything that you don't want to hear from this point forward. But yet we see things that are going on. I've been talking about zones of influence, trading zones, military alliances since the 90s, and ever since I've been a public figure. But now, I mean, we see the beginnings of this, not just with Xi and Putin, but now we have a U.S. president who's saying, I want to have full control over the hemisphere.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a sea change. And you never go back fully from that. And he may not be successful, but what he's now doing is we lose credibility to say to Xi or Putin, you can't empire build.
Yeah.
If you want to seize Canada, if you want to seize Greenland, or you want to seize Colombia or Venezuela or whatever.
Cuba.
Yeah. What is the difference? There is no difference. It's two sides of the same coin.
But is that humanity? Is humanity cursed with always getting to that point where they want more than they have?
It's because we are kind of cursed that way, but we're our own curse. We don't have to do this, but somebody always will. But that's because, again, I mean, people can believe what they want to believe, and I think you should learn as much as you can so you understand why you believe what you want to believe. But there is no scenario with humankind where we won't have evil people until we accept that it takes an omnipotent God in place that we've chosen.
Yes.
That this goes away.
But we always rebel.
Until the cycle finishes. Yes.
But isn't that what the Hebrews did when they were following Moses? They
did. That's why there has to be something else that's added at the time of our resurrection to move forward. And it's described to us as having God's laws written on our spirit.
Not a bad place to have them written. I mean, they're good laws.
Yes.
But
without taking away free will. You have to be able to see both sides of it, but that's probably, we have that as history, we know.
And we always have free will, and that's where the fallen angels come in.
Well, but they didn't know everything, and they didn't know what would happen. Like, they're the first of the creations from the information that were provided.
Yeah. But it's sort of like, it's a never-ending cycle, and there has to be an end game somewhere, sometime, somewhere.
Well, but again, we go back to before the angels rebelled, you had perfection.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what it's going to go back to in the future, but in a way where that rebellion at that level of being, you don't have to worry about.
Well, if God created the angels and the archangels, what did he put into the recipe okay, free will, but what was it that was added to the mix that would allow them to create evil?
Probably the creation of the physical world, where where things could be altered.
But wasn't the earth the realm for the angels originally?
No, spirit realm. They're spirit beings. That's their home.
Okay.
Right. And so this free will is put in. And I think we'll have free will going forward. But what you have now is a testimony through several periods and different beings that there's only one way to harmony and goodness. The other only leads to evil and destruction, no matter how it plays out. So whatever that change is, there's a change, and that's what we have to have the faith on, and that's what we're promised.
Well, on that high note, it seems to me that humanity as a whole needs to wake up.
Yes, we do.
And understand, and at least throw roadblocks where we can slow a process down. We can't stop it, but we can slow it down.
I believe if we all, and this is what the universal religion is going to promise as well, but it's the flip side again. But if we all repented and followed the God of the universe, then we could stop what is going to take place. But we won't.
But if we do that, though, don't we prevent eternity from coming?
I don't know. It just comes in a different way. So, I mean, the classic example would be what we're experiencing right now on the last big problem area is the time of Israel, where they were God's people, created to bring about the Redeemer, to bring in this new age. They could have, if they had followed the covenant, we could have had a whole different history and a shorter, less painful history. Yeah. They chose to rebel many times, and God warned them. He put it right into their holy covenant. If you follow my covenant, these are the blessings that you get. If you do not, you will suffer the curses of the covenant. We are suffering the curses of the covenant, but because God is Alpha Omega, he's greater than free choice. He knows how it plays out, and he's allowing it to play out. So that in itself shows that there is these turning points where we could have controlled things ourselves. But no matter what, because God is Alpha Omega, he still gets there with us, which is amazing. He's
got time on his side. I mean, humanity as a species is spiraling in the wrong direction.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting as well in the time of the Exodus, and just after they leave Egypt, and the Moses leaves to go get the 10 Commandments, and he's come back and there's this graven image of the bull right there. And God says, I'm going to destroy them and start over with you, Moses, right? Jehovah the Elohim says this. And Moses says, no, you can't do that. You'll justify what the other nation said. And so it's a test and a sift, but that's us in a nutshell. And that's the lesson we have to learn so well before moving on.
So in other words, we've created another golden calf.
Yeah. Which will be the image with the beast, with AI.
Well, we'll certainly keep up with you. And
well, it's a fascinating topic to, as we look at what AI does and where it could take us. And obviously people will have different views as to where it can take us. But it's interesting because in the novel that I was working with the publisher on, that is going to be releasing April 1st, and you and I are going to do a show about that after it comes out. The subtitle, I mean, is AI's Covenant with Babylon, and the title is The Oprimo Conspiracy. And what Bill wanted to do was create a really interesting novel. It's a fiction, but it has my research in it, both prehistory and for the end times. And so what he wanted to do was create a story of the end time of how AI might influence the end time.
And it may.
Yeah, and interplay, and from an early point, like well before AI hits with the image. It's there, and it's preparing with Babylon, at the outset of the last 7 years, which implies a development even before that. And so who knows how that total impact's going to be, but that's what sort of the narrative is trying to take on, but be biblically responsible as well.
Is this the beginning of a trilogy?
It will be at least a trilogy because there's just too much information. So Bill wanted to write it in one book, and I said right out of the gate, there's once you start to experience how much information we're dealing with, you're going to say there's no way we can get through this, because you just wouldn't do it justice, and there'd be like Swiss cheese and too many long shot Hail Mary connections you'd have to make to make it go. So we get through the fourth seal in book one. But you have to set the table, you have to begin the process. And there's this interesting thing that we decided to tackle. And we talked a lot about how to do this so it would be biblically responsible as well. But the book of Revelation, which is the biggest sort of prophecy on time, you get the seals and you get the trumpets and you get the wrath bowls, and you get these great scenes shown in heaven when they're opened or blasted or starting to be poured out. But how does that message translate to the earth?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we try and create in the story, but not to try and rewrite Revelation in any way. But there has to be a process. So that's a fiction part that we put in on how there's a communication thing and that's happening with the opening of the seal and all the drama around that as it plays out on the earth for the opening, and the meaning of the message and people who are translating that message. And so that's one of the things that we take on. And so we have to create these really interesting characters, right, that we're going to center around. And so all of the characters have an interesting background in terms of ancestry and bloodlines,
of course,
and relationships to organizations. So they're all Google worthy, and locations that we're at are all Google worthy. And so again, it's the idea of what I do in my research is I try and have people try and understand prehistory so we can help to understand end time prophecy.
I'm so looking forward to this.
Yeah, it was fun to do, and it's difficult to do because you can do fiction and say I can do anything I want because it's fiction, except that we're trying to use my research. So I've got some restrictions in terms of what I would want to support. And the Bible has all of these bumper guards all the way through on its timeline and chronology and things, and who does what when. And you have to pay attention to that, because what we don't want people to do is say is you've rewritten the Bible here somewhere. We could say, well, yeah, it's fiction. That was just some artistic license. Well, we want to have the artistic license, but we don't want to contradict Scripture. And that's the challenge that we're trying to thread.
I can't wait. I'm looking so forward to this one.
Yeah.
But we are out of time, and
Yep.
Until April, when we'll really have fun. But unless, of course, something happens and AI decides to do something strange, and then
Yep.
we'll have you back on and make sure that
We're
we
up to
cover
date.
that.
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm hoping it doesn't make our book out to date before it gets published.
I'm sure it won't. I want to thank you so much again. This is always, as always, a fantastic time for me. I'm so really glad that you were able to share your time with me.
Terrific.
Take care now. And good night, everybody.